So today, honestly, I'm probably going to say some things most people don't want to hear. But in my opinion, borrowed purpose is destroying a generation. And I'm not going to say it gently because I believe gentle just hasn't been working. Because here's the part no one wants to admit. There's a lot of people that aren't fighting for justice. They're fighting for emptiness in their own lives. You know, what we're seeing right now in culture isn't a rise of awareness. It's a collapse, in my opinion, of purpose. It's just a lack of purpose. There's a massive amount of people who don't actually know why they're alive. Instead of confronting this terrifying question, they distract themselves with noise, with outrage, with protest, with borrowed causes that let them feel meaningful without ever becoming disciplined, accountable, or obedient. You know, honestly, when you don't have that God-given purpose, you don't become free. You become useful. You become useful to movements. You become useful to narratives. You become useful to people who know exactly how to weaponize your anger while giving you the illusion of significance. Borrowed purpose is seductive. It, it gives you identity without introspection, belonging without character, a sense of righteousness without personal responsibility. And as long as you're loud and outraged, no one asks what you're actually building. But honestly, here's the truth. Outrage is not a calling. Protest is not a purpose. And being against something is not the same as being for anything meaningful. You are not created to be perpetually angry or offended or reactive. You are created intentionally by God with a responsibility, with direction, with purpose baked into your existence. And until you stop outsourcing that identity to the culture and you start answering the questions of why you're here, you'll stay loud, you'll stay exhausted, you'll stay spiritually empty. And that's why today we're going to talk about the cost of refusing to define your purpose and why the world is more happy to define it for you. I've been baking on this topic for quite a while, and I've been writing notes for the last several weeks because I believe it's one of the major problems in today's society. Again, it's people are globbing onto something that gives them a sense of purpose because they don't have purpose in their own lives. I believe the biggest problem facing society today is a lack of purpose. It's like, what are you actually building? What are you actually doing with your lives? And we're seeing this play out in real time. If you turn on any news organization, you see it. And you see it when it comes to these protests, because again, if we just look back over the last several years of what people are outraged about, it's the same people going from one cause to the next cause, to the next cause, to the next cause. And they're not actually really doing anything about it. You can see that they don't really care because it's what is the hot button of today that I can get pissed off or outraged about, right? And we saw it. Let's go back even to 2020, right? It started with the COVID craze, right? How many people, it was almost a religion to people, whether you got vaccinated and or you were masking up, right? It was like your virtue signal if you were masked up, right? Or if you got the vax, right? And you saw people almost hold this as high as religion, right? Like you were a heretic if you, heaven forbid, didn't wear a mask or you didn't you didn't get the vax, right? I mean, you literally had people in media saying, "I hope you catch COVID and die if you don't dare conform and take the mask or take the shot." And so it started there, right? And then it went on to George Floyd. Massive protests about it. And then we saw the hypocrisy of the whole situation where you couldn't go to church because of social distancing, but you could go to a George Floyd rally, right? Like that was okay. Somehow you couldn't catch this virus that was going to kill the world. You couldn't catch it if you were righteously protesting, but you couldn't go to church. Okay, so then let's go on to one of the next, the trans movement, or let's go on to Ukraine, right? Whatever happened to that, right? All of a sudden, no one cares about Ukraine anymore because then it went on to Palestine, right? And then we're protesting that. Well, that all of a sudden has gone away, and now it's going to immigration, or it's going to ICE, and it's going to all these things. It's like the same people are just moving from one thing. So if you really care, like if all these people who are so outraged about Ukraine, why aren't they still? It's not like the war hasn't stopped. It's not like there's still not conflict going on over there. But what happened to that? Or what happened to the Palestine people? What happened to them? Right? Does now that take a second fiddle because of the immigration issue? Right? So it's people who have a lack of purpose that just keep going from one cause to the next because it's filling this massive emptiness, this spiritual void that you have, because I believe that God's given each one of us a God-given purpose in our life. Right? He's made us so uniquely and divinely made that each one of us have gifts and talents and purpose in our lives to be able to accomplish in this world. But yet, where are most people? They're looking for validation. They're looking for acceptance. They're looking for this group. And you see it all the time. As long as you toe the line and you speak the narrative, you're a part of the group. But heaven forbid if you go against it. Right now, all of a sudden, you're a leper. You're an outcast. And we've seen that over and over and over and over. Heaven forbid if you were a trans person that then started coming out against kids getting mutilated in the whole trans movement, right? Because they were once those kids that made this life-altering decision, and now they're looking back with regret saying, I couldn't have done it. Look at how those people are treated. Or heaven forbid, if you're a person of color and you don't toe the Democratic line, you're cast out. Like you're an Uncle Tom, right? Like that's how they treat you. Or any of these other movements. If you have a pragmatic approach to immigration, it doesn't matter, right? Like if you don't toe the line, then you're the enemy, right? You're a Nazi, right? Or any other word that they try to speak out. And so these people that are so outraged about the hot topic of the day, again, I believe personally that it is a purpose issue in their lives. They're not living their life of purpose. They don't have anything. I don't have time to see what hot button it is because I know I have a God-given purpose in my life to help people live a younger, healthier, longer life. I know I have a purpose in my life to help people increase their lives financially, spiritually, with their health. I know that's my calling, that's my purpose, to be an evangelist, not only for my faith, but also to help people live a better quality of life in all aspects of their life. I am driven every day to want to help people accomplish things on a physical level, on a financial level, on a spiritual level. That is what drives me to really get deep down into somebody's why, to really get deep down into what's driving somebody. What is those goals, those dreams, those passions, and help them to accomplish that, to help open up their mindset in different ways, to help them think differently about their lives, to open up their purpose so that they can live a really fulfilled life. And this is why I wrote down a couple notes that I've been thinking over the last few weeks, because this is something I'm so passionate about, because I truly believe that we have a purpose crisis. And I really believe, because we live in such the amazing country of America, where life compared to most other areas is really good. Like, again, I've said this a million times, if you were born in America, you won the freaking lottery. Because I've been to so many countries around the world where they don't have the opportunities. They don't have time to worry about, or look for something to be outraged about, because they're just looking for food, right, every day. Like when I go to Africa every year, and some of the works we do over in Africa every year, these people aren't outraged about some of the, whatever they're told to be outraged about, because they're literally in landfills scrounging for food every day of their life just so they can try to find something to eat. But because we're here in America, and because this is the land of abundance, and because there's so much opportunity, I mean, think about these protesters that are out there every day. How are they eating? Like, I have a family to support. Like, how are they eating? Are they getting paid to be there? Or are they on some social program to where basically I'm paying for them to be out there through my tax dollars. They're surviving somehow. But if they didn't live in such a land of abundance, they wouldn't have the opportunity to do this. Right? Because they don't, we have it really easy here. And I believe because we have it so easy, and because literally in America, if you're poor in America, you're still in the top 5% of the wealthiest in the world. It's a lack of purpose. And because they're spiritually bankrupt and they're spiritually or they're purposely bankrupt, then they don't have this. So here's a few of my thoughts that I've written down over the last couple of weeks. Because I believe, number one, a lot of what we see in society isn't courage, it's confusion. And we see that because, again, if you lay out a lot of the protests over the last 5 years, it's the same people that are outraged about multiple different things. And as soon as one thing kind of dies down or they're told to be outraged, and this is what I really want to get down, think about the psyops they're doing to you. Right? You're being told to be outraged. How insane is it? Is there anybody in their rational mind that does not want murderers and pedophiles to be picked up and kicked out of our country? I'm not saying that the immigration, what they're doing, everything they're doing is perfect. But the vast majority of the people, if you go through and look at the receipts of the people they're picking up, they are criminals. Period. Convicted multiple times. Do you want them living next door? Would you allow them in your house to live with you? Probably not. But yet we're supposed to be outraged because over the last 4 years, we were basically invaded. I've been to 33 countries around the world. You know, every time I've been to countries, even third world, like backwards countries that don't have hardly anything, I've had to apply for visas. They knew who I was when I came in. I got fingerprinted. They knew who I was when I was entering their country. Every country in the world does this. So somehow we're bad because we want to know what's in the country? Does this make any rational sense ever? No. And if you pragmatically look back and say, okay, why is this happening? Why was it allowed to happen? And should we now have to fix a problem that was thrusted upon us? Sometimes cleaning up a problem isn't always pretty, and Lord knows it's not perfect. But you got to do something. You have to do something to fix the problem. So again, it's not a courage. These people aren't courageous. They're confused, in my personal opinion. Right? When people don't have purpose, they don't become neutral about something. They just become loud. Have you ever seen these protesters that are interviewed? Most of them cannot describe why they like really give you meaningful discussion of what the problem is, what the solution is, and how we're going to fix it, or why they're even mad. Most of these people don't have a clue why they're mad. If you ask them one or two questions about like, what are you really doing? What's the solution, or why are you here? They can't answer it. But they're loud. They're going to scream, bitch, and moan about it. But what are they going to do about it? What's the solution? I'm a big person that always believes, okay, here's the problem. We're going to spend 5% on, identifying the problem. We're going to spend 95% on the solution. Are any of these people giving a solution? Because listen, there's border patrol in every country in the world. Like abolishing immigration control is not the solution. That's not the solution. You have to have controls of who's entering your country. Okay, so what is the solution? And are they even coming to a table with any kind of rational thought about an actual solution? Or are they just blowing whistles, screaming, and throwing things? It's like a little child throwing a tantrum. There's no rational solution behind it. They don't even know why they're mad half the time. They're just throwing a tantrum. And you can't have a rational discussion with it because there is not a rational, their response is not rational, right? So you have to get into this. So people without purpose will attach themselves to anything that make them feel important. And I want to say again, people without purpose will attach themselves to anything that makes them feel important. And that's where you see the same people going from one cause to the next cause, to the next cause, to the next cause. Right? That's what they're doing. They don't want to do it. If you don't know why you're alive, you'll be fighting for causes that will give you the illusion of meaning. And I believe that's a major problem in this country right now, right? When you don't know why you're alive, when you don't know the purpose that God's given you, when you don't know these things, then you're just going to glob on and to find anything that will make you feel important. And that's the problem when you look at a lot of these causes, right? Again, as long as you toe the line, you feel included, you feel important, you feel supported. Everyone's like, yeah, you're the best, you're the strongest, you're so virtuous, until you don't. And we saw this drastically through the COVID movement. As long as you were pro-vax, pro-mask, pro-mandates, pro all this, even some of the most highly respected doctors in the world, as soon as they had a different opinion, cast out, right? You're done. You're gone. Think about that, right? Again, you're included as long as you do as you're told, right? People will weaponize you for their cause because you don't have a purpose yourself that's more important to fulfill in your life. I believe people are wired for purpose. I really believe this. Have you ever asked yourself, honestly, like, why am I here? What was I created for? Why was I here? Why am I here? What am I doing here? Why do I matter? Again, I posted a short video of a friend of mine, CT, that was talking about this the other day, talking about the God-given gifts that people give us. And he made a joke where he recognized his gift in fourth grade, that he was good at talking, right? And he's made millions of dollars because of the ability to articulate, the ability to communicate, the willingness to get up and share a message and talk clearly, right, to audiences, and to help other people do that as well, right? He recognized the gift. Why is he here? Why does he matter? Why does he do things? Like, and he kind of laid that out. Purpose is not a luxury. I believe it's a need. I believe every one of us, again, has a God-given purpose deep down inside of us to fulfill out of this life. And when you don't know what your purpose is, if you don't know why you're here or why you matter, then we go down to and we try to find something that fills that void within us. And I truly believe if you look at 99% of the protesters out there, that's what it is. They're lost in their own world. They don't know their own purpose. They don't know what's driving them. They don't know why they're here or why they matter. So they glob onto something that gives them the illusion of why they matter. Well, if I'm going to stand out here and scream or spit in a cop's face or throw something at them, I matter. Do you? What are you really accomplishing? Are you really accomplishing the goal that you're looking for? Are you really going after a solution? Because I believe when I view what's going on in this world right now, I don't hear any solutions. And we saw this after George Floyd. What was one of the solutions? Defund the police and get rid of it. Does that make the world safer? Especially some of the most dangerous neighborhoods in this country? Were those people better off or were they worse off? Go talk to the people in these neighborhoods. I grew up in neighborhoods like that. Trust me, they want more police because they're tired of the crime like everyone else. And what happened? Did it solve the problem? No, crime went up. Duh, right? There's a reason why it says an armed society is a polite society, right? There's a reason that that's a saying. Why do so many mass shooters go after soft targets? Why? Because they know they don't have anybody to come against them. I mean, this is just common sense stuff. And so how do we correct the problem? Right? What was the actual solution to crime? Was it less police or more police? And again, you can go down and find examples of good and bad in everything. And I'm not here to go down and look for the 1% or the 0.5% of the bad in any organization. But I'm here to say, like, defunding the police was not a solution. Abolishing ICE is not the solution. What is the actual solution to the immigration problem that we had? Everyone talks about, you hear young people gripe and moan about not being able to buy houses. There's a housing crisis. So did basically importing millions of people solve that problem, or did it perpetuate the problem? Because all these people have to live somewhere. right? Okay, so if there's a housing issue, what is the solution? Is it bring in more people, or is it figure out a solution to this? Because that's just one piece of that problem, right? Going into it, when purpose is missing, people don't sit still. They search, they latch on, or they follow whoever promises meaning. And that's, again, what my personal opinion, what 90% of these protesters are. They're following whoever is promising meaning, right? You can't delete God from the equation and expect humans not to malfunction. Again, I've shared my testimony multiple times. I've been a Christian for over 25 years. I was 24 when I gave my life to Christ, and I really researched. I was like, if I'm going to believe this and give my life to it, I have to know that I know that I know that I know that this is 100% accurate, that it is truthful, that the Gospels are real, that the life, the death, and the resurrection of Christ was an actual event, the promise of eternal life because God and Jesus did rise up from the dead, right? Like I research and research it. I know that I know, and I've done podcasts on this, how it is impossible for nature to have created us. If you don't believe me, go research chromosome 2. Just go research that and how that was mended, for lack of a better word, together, where we get our speech, we get our imagination, we get our empathy, we get all these things that define us as humans as so different from everything else in the animal world, right? That one chromosome. And this is where scientists have a major problem because they can't explain it. It could not have happened in nature. And so again, if you delete God from the equation, you can't expect humans not to malfunction. Right? If you take away purpose from people, right? This is where I believe a lot of the social programs, right, are a detriment to people, not a help. If you look at how welfare was set up, it was set up for a stopgap. Okay, I'm going through a very hard period in my life. I'm going to get assistance for a short period until I get back up on my feet. That's what welfare was. Why have there been generations of people on welfare? Does that take away purpose? I believe hard work is God's greatest therapy. I believe through work we find purpose. But when you take that away from people, does it help them or hurt them? I believe it's a huge detriment. We saw it during COVID. When people were paid more to stay home and do nothing, did that help the society or did that hurt it in the long run? It hurt it, 100%. Did people's attitudes go up? Did depression go down? Think about it. I mean, we have time now where we can look back. This is not in dispute. So listen, let's look at what I believe is a purpose vacuum, like I was saying, versus kind of some of these modern movements. So let's think about this. Protests and movements, here's some things I believe that they often provide. Instant belonging, clear enemies, moral superiority, and a script to follow. Now we know those things are true because they show up, all the signs are the same, right? Everyone has the same talking points, the same instructions, the same signs they're saying, right? The same little bullet points. Again, if you ask them 2 or 3 questions beyond that, they can't answer it because they've been given a script to follow, right? They're given clear enemies. Who's the enemy, right? Those people. You know, it's funny that people talk about these masked agents, but they don't talk about the masked protesters. I mean, if you want the agents to identify themselves, why not the protesters? Does that make sense? Right? But they've been given a script to follow, right? About how everyone's evil and mean. And I mean, the word Nazi's been thrown around so many times, does it really even have meaning anymore? Right? So again, script to follow, instant belonging, clear enemies. So for most, it's not about justice, it's their identity. In 2026, why are still people walking around with cloth or those very thin masks on their face, or even in cars by themselves? It is part of their identity now, right? It's not about justice. It's not about anything, but it became their identity, right? Here's what borrowed purpose does. It feels powerful, and you see that every day on the news. It feels powerful. It requires no personal transformation, and it avoids all responsibility. And we see that clear as day in today's society. Is there any expectation of responsibility of actions? No. People go out and they do these things, whether it's throwing fireworks, throwing bricks, throwing frozen water bottles, using their cars as the objective's not the right word. I can't think of the right word. Barriers or whatever you want to call it, right? Doing all these things and no responsibility. Like they believe in their head that there is no consequence for actions, period. No consequence for actions. None at all. And the hypocrisy out in today's world is so insane that we saw this massive church interruption in Minneapolis. Let's flip that script. What if it was a majority white crowd that went into a mosque and started protesting like that? Do you not believe that there would be immediate hate crimes and those people be thrown in jail immediately? But these people think there's no consequence to actions. There's no response. They don't have to take any type of personal responsibility because the cause is bigger, and there's no responsibility at all. So it's easier to chant in a crowd than to build a meaningful life. Trust me, it's easier. Right? It's so much easier to chant in a crowd, right, than to really build a meaningful life that's out there. Because false purpose, think about this, it always needs an enemy. Always. And that's where, again, it went from the non-vaxxers to the BLM movement. Remember, it wasn't, you were ostracized if you had the audacity that says, yes, Black lives do matter, but also Mexican lives, Asian lives, white lives, like all lives should matter. I believe life is a precious gift. I believe all people matter. Right? I believe God made all of us as such a unique and magnificent. I believe every baby is a miracle. I believe every life is precious. But could you believe we lived in a time where if you said that, like that was against the narrative? You're not allowed to say that. Because heaven forbid, if you put everyone on an equal playing field versus saying some people's lives are more important than your life. Right? It always needs an enemy. And that's why these people go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, right? So think about this. Movements survive on outrage. And that's why they keep going from one to the next to the next. They have to find something to be outraged about. And you see it, right? Like, again, where's the outrage about the Palestinian people, right? And a lot of in my opinion, the excess bombings that were happening. Like, where's the outrage for them? Where's the outrage for the Ukraine people? Like, where's the outrage? It's good for a moment. It gives the narrative, and then you need a new outrage, and it survives on outrage. That's what movements are. If there's no enemy, then one has to be created. And do you not think in today's world, especially in the media, that they're not creating enemies? Right? That's why the goalposts always have to be moved. Right? Like if you think about a lot of things, it starts with, let's say it starts with tolerance. You shouldn't judge people because of their behaviors or this, that, and the other, right? So it starts on tolerance, right? And then it goes to acceptance. Like you have to accept X, Y, and Z. You have to accept it. And then it goes on to, we're going to make you, right? The goalpost never stops. It's constantly being moved, right? Allies will eventually become the villains. And we've seen that in more examples than you could ever count, right? People that thought, if you look at the cancel culture that was out there, and people that were major pieces of canceling people, then all of a sudden they did something that didn't toe the line, then they got canceled, right? Now all of a sudden they're the villain, right? So a lot of times allies eventually become the villains. That's why people perpetually stay angry. Anger becomes their identity. right? I laugh every time I see Rosie O'Donnell pop up. Her anger toward Trump is her identity now. And for a lot of people, like, there's been a lot of politicians I've liked, there's been a lot I don't like. I have never had one that has consumed my life like so many people right now, because they have to have an enemy. If you look at, honestly, if you look at a lot of the Democratic side of the aisle right now, are they giving any solutions, or is it just everything against Trump? If Trump wants to do it, it's bad. Period. Whatever they do, it's not, again, they're not offering solutions to any problems. It's just, if he wants to do it, I'm against it. Period. Period. Right? It's crazy. But again, they have to have that. Anger becomes their identity. Peace would expose the emptiness. If they started having peace in their life, they would understand the emptiness is there because of a lack of purpose in their life. Right? If your purpose disappears, that's when conflict ends, because it was never purpose, it was addiction. And I believe people are addicted to their anger right now. Their perceived outrage right now. Right? I think it's a dopamine hit. I think they're addicted to it. Because again, no matter, I mean, Trump said this line at one of the State of the Unions. He says, if I were to cause cancer, there would be people that would not stand up and clap for it. And it's so true, right? We saw people whose disdain for him was so high that when he was honoring, there was a young kid out of Houston with cancer that was given an honorary Secret Service badge, right? Like it's a super cool story. He's out of Houston, and like so many police, his dream is to be a police officer, right? It's this young black kid in Houston, and that's his dream. And like dozens and dozens and dozens of police organizations around Houston have made him an honorary officer. And Trump recognized this kid and made him an honorary Secret Service guy. And there was people, because of their anger, their addiction to their anger to Trump, would not clap for a young black kid getting this honorary mention and honor. Like, where are you in your life that you can't say, this is a good thing? Like, this is a cool thing. I want to applaud for this kid, because he has more courage than half the people that are squawking right now, because he's dealing with something huge. Right? And again, they're just finding some type of anger. They're looking for it. So one of the things that I want to kind of bookend this with is, sometimes a God-given purpose is inconvenient, right? Like if you think about God's purpose, I believe it requires obedience. It always starts small, and it demands responsibility. If there's one thing that is a pet peeve of mine, is people that do not take 100% responsibility for their actions. This is what drives me crazy about the criminal justice system right now. Most people have more empathy to the person that perpetuated the crime, that they're the victim, than the actual victim themselves. So it's not the person taking responsibility for doing the crime, right? And so the victim's not the victim. The victim of the crime's not the victim. You don't hear anything about the victims of a lot of these crimes. I mean, we saw it in Houston. There was a young child that was brutally tortured and sexually assaulted and killed. And people were more worried about the deportation of the guys that did it versus this young girl that went through so much hell. They were the victims somehow. What? Like we're living in backwards world, because again, your purpose, finding your purpose, it demands you taking 100% responsibility for your life. Period. Like end stop. It doesn't make you famous. It makes you faithful though. Right? Because most of these people, they're searching for that 5 minutes and then it's gone. They're forgotten about. And they're still left empty because they don't have purpose in their life, true purpose. Most people want a platform without discipline, influence without integrity, and impact without sacrifice. And it's backwards. None of those things are going to happen. right? You're never going to create a platform without having discipline in your life. You're never going to have influence without integrity. That's why so many of these people are laughed at, because they don't have any integrity, because they just say whatever they're supposed to say, or whatever sounds good, or the soundbite of the day. And then if it changes, they'll just change. They don't care. They don't have any integrity in their lives. And then impact without sacrifice. If you think about God's calling in your life, it doesn't make you loud, but it makes you dangerous in the right way. I want to say again, God's calling doesn't make you loud, but it makes you dangerous in the right way. When you're performing at your best in your God-given purpose, you're going to make impact in this world that will never happen because you're loud. Right? So I want you to think about that. So again, I really think responsibility is that real missing link, because purpose grows when your responsibility is embraced. When you pick up the mantle and you have true responsibility in your life, that's where it happens. Because a lack of responsibility does this. And we see this play out every day in the media. We see it constantly. Here's what a lack of responsibility produces. It produces blame, victimhood, and permanent adolescence, right? Because culture rewards outrage, right? And we see it. We see it every day on the news. Every day on the news. God rewards obedience, right? When you're obedient to the calling that he's put on your life, and you're obedient with the talents that he's given you in your life, that's what gets rewarded. It's the action that gets rewarded. I want you to think about this. When Jesus fed the 5,000, right? He blessed the food, but it didn't multiply then. It multiplied in the obedience of his disciples as they gave out the food. The action that they were doing, that's what when the miracle happened. Right? When they were obedient and they were in action, they took responsibility for what they were supposed to do. They were obedient what they were told to do. That's when the miracle happened. That's when it happened, right? He rewards obedience. If you don't take responsibility for your own life, you have no business trying to fix the world. And that's what a lot of people are doing. They have no responsibility for their own life, but yet they're trying to fix the world. But they're not taking any kind of responsibility for their own life. And then it perpetuates down. How ludicrous is it that there are moms bringing babies to some of these protests in 0-degree weather, where their babies are being hospitalized for being exposed to tear gas? Like, you're not taking any responsibility for your own life or even the lives of your kids, but yet you're out there trying to fix the world? I mean, we're living in a backwards society right now. And that's just what it is. And that's why, like I said, this topic and this message has been on my heart for 3 or 4 weeks now. And I've been trying to take some notes and kind of write some thoughts down, because it's such an important thing. And again, as we start 2026, I believe that this is vitally important, that you recognize, like you take time and you stop and you recognize, okay, why am I here? Why do I matter? What is my purpose in this life? What am I really looking to do? Am I willing to take 100% responsibility for my life and really get down to it? So a couple closing questions that I wrote down that I really want you to think about as I bookend this podcast. So who are you when no one's watching? Are you the same person when no one's watching that you are in front of a camera, or when you get on, do your TikToks or your Instagrams or whatever? Are you the same person? Are you really the same person when no one's watching? What are you building that would matter still if Instagram or TikTok disappeared? Like, what are you truly building? You know, one of the reasons I decided to pull the trigger on this podcast, because I want to build, again, I've said this, and this is my mission with this, I want to build a community of people that are actively wanting to get the absolute most out of every year of their life. Right? They want to get better physically. They want to get better mentally. They want to get better financially. They want to get better spiritually. They want to grow. They want to take responsibility. They want to identify their purpose, and they want to go out and impact the world around them. Right? That's why I'm passionate about building this community. So again, what are you building if social media disappeared? Are you building anything that's going to last beyond you? I look at some of my mentors and the ripples effect that they had even after they're dead. That's a person that knew their purpose. That's the person that took responsibility for their life. That's the person that built something that lasted beyond them. So, okay, think about this. If you're outraged about the hot topic of the day, what if your favorite movement vanished tomorrow? Would you still know who you are? Or would you just be empty looking for the next thing? Again, these people that are protesting so much, they're just going from the one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. So again, if you're little, okay, if the immigration thing got solved tomorrow, like all of a sudden it was just a miracle, that whole issue is fixed. Do you know who you are? What would these people be doing if they went home? Everything was perfect, right? It was fixed. Do you know who you are? Would you still know who you are? Or would you be clamoring to find, oh my gosh, what's next? What can I do next? Are you reacting to the world or responding to God's call? Right? Like, I want you to really think about that. Are you just responding to the world, or are you responding to God's call on your life? That's one question I really wanted to get you to meditate on, right? Because you weren't created to live this angry, reactive, empty life. Again, I'll say it again. You were created on purpose, with intention, by God, right? You weren't created to live this life of anger and reaction and emptiness. You were created on purpose, with intention, by God, right? No movement can replace your calling. No movement can replace your calling. Your calling can create a movement, right? I intend to create a movement because I know it's a calling on my life. I wake up every day excited about relationships that I'm going to create. That's what I get excited about, right? So I can get to know new people. I can talk to new people. I can help, again, get their mind thinking differently to create and figure out the purpose, the calling, the will of God for their life, right? To create and help them have a better quality of life. Again, nutritionally and health-wise, financially, spiritually. Like, this is what drives me every day, and that's why I want to create a movement around it. And so a movement can't replace your calling, but a calling can create a movement. No outrage can ever replace obedience. Nothing. So if you don't define your purpose, the world will rent you one. And a lot of people are being rented purpose right now. So if you don't define your purpose, the world is going to rent you one, and it will cost you your peace. It will cost you your peace. And that's where most people, man, they don't have peace in their life because they're getting rented a purpose from what other people are telling them to be pissed off about. Think about that. So look, if this offended you in any way, I want you to sit with it. Sit with it for a minute and really meditate and think about it. My intention wasn't necessarily to offend during this podcast, but it is intended to wake you up, to get you to think a little bit. Did anything I say today, was it not true? Right? I mean, if you were to take emotion out of it and pragmatically look at a lot of the issues that we're dealing with today, right? It wasn't meant to offend, but sometimes, we need to be stirred a little bit. Like, I like to be challenged in my thoughts and in my things. I love having debates with people in a civilized way, like discussions, seeing both sides of arguments. And yeah, my views have changed a lot in my 50 years on this earth because I'm willing to have talks with people and hear the other side in a calm way, in a rational conversation, right? And not all of a sudden, if someone doesn't agree with me, I'm going to call them every name in the book. That's how I know you have no real thought of your own. If I don't agree with you on 100% of the immigration stuff happening right now, and your immediate response is, well, you're just a racist. No, I just have the ability of critical thinking, right? Right. And I want to be solution oriented. Like Rand Paul the other day, like he's trying to propose a bill that he was talking about that, okay, if people have been here a long time, but they're not legal, okay, what is the solution? Is it just to kick everyone out? Well, one of his solutions would be that they do not have the ability to ever vote, right? Or become a citizen of the country. Right? They can't live off our welfare programs or anything, but they can still live here and they can work here, but they can't become citizens. They can't vote. Is that a rational solution that could solve part of these problems? Sounds pretty rational to me. But is anybody talking about that? Do you think it's going to get passed in our Congress? I mean, let's be solution oriented to these problems and let's find it out. So again, if this challenged you, that's good. Right, that was my intent of this podcast this week was to challenge you a little bit, to get you to think a little bit. So I just want to really, again, as we start, as we start 2026, this is something that's been on my heart for a while now, and I believe it's a major problem facing today's world. It's a lack of purpose in people's lives. And I want you to just sit and think. I challenge you to sit and think for a minute. Like, get quiet and really ask yourself, why am I here? What was I made for? What is the purpose of my life? Find your purpose. Find your gifts, your talents, what you were created for. Then you can have impact on the world. Hope this resonated. Guys, please share, like, subscribe to this. Get the word out. Again, I am passionate about helping people increase the quality of life. I'm passionate about helping people go to different levels in their finances, in their spirituality, right? In their spiritual walk, in their faith, in their health, right? Like that, those are my passions. And that's why I'm building this community. I hope this resonated with you guys today. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments. So take care, guys. God bless. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.